we want to dive further into the attack on Israel that left innocent civilians living in terror all across the country.
Yeah, I mean, this is terrifying. If you've seen some of those videos, you can't show them on air because they're that graphic and gruesome. But our next guest is on the ground currently in Jerusalem with his family. Let's welcome in the former U.S. Ambassador to Israel, David Friedman. Good morning, Mr. Ambassador.
Good morning. Good. Thanks for having me.
Could you talk to us a little bit about what you've been seeing? How are you and your family also doing right now?
Well, we're doing fine. I wouldn't compare myself at all to the incredible tragedy that's unfolding in the southern part of the country. I'm in Jerusalem. We have had yesterday about 15 or 20 air raid sirens. You hear the siren, you go into shelters. We're fortunate enough to have shelters built into our home. The problem really is I've got small grandchildren here, and I need to explain to them why we're living in a world where there are people that want to randomly and indiscriminately kill Jewish people just because they're Jewish. It's a tough message to deliver to a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old, and that's really where we're suffering. Physically, we'll be fine. I'm praying for a decisive and overwhelming victory by the state of Israel. But what's going on in the south is truly horrific.
Mr. Ambassador, let me ask you, you're in Jerusalem. This area is constantly, when we have issues like this, when we have terror attacks like this, we do see a lot of infighting between the Palestinians, the Israeli Arabs and the Jewish Arabs in that area. What are you seeing on the ground there? How is the Arab world in Jerusalem reacting to what we're seeing coming from Gaza?
We don't quite know yet. Jerusalem's been quiet the last couple of days. There have been calls for the East Jerusalem Arabs, of which there are probably 300,000 or 400,000 living in East Jerusalem. There have been calls for them to rise up and to attack Israelis on the streets. It hasn't happened yet, at least not at a significant level. But tomorrow this is an incredibly volatile situation. Up in the north, there's a large Arab population. Again, not something that's unmanageable. In Judea and Samaria, again, a little bit more. I would say right now the overwhelming focus and challenge is coming from the Gaza Strip. There's been a little bit of activity up in the north between Hezbollah and Israel, which again could escalate. It's very volatile, but right now the focus is really on the Gaza Strip, and that's where the risks really are.
Ambassador, we know that Israel has one of the best intelligence agencies in the world, but do you feel you received a sufficient enough warning to get to safety? And do you feel as if Israel government maybe, missed it on this one, so to speak?
Well, look, there will be, I'm sure, a commission of inquiry on this, and I'm sure there's a time for finding out who dropped the ball. Somebody obviously made a mistake here. Someone dropped the ball. Some group dropped the ball. We'll find out. It's not the time to look backwards. We really need to win this war. But sure, I mean, this was a colossal failure of intelligence and of preparedness. I mean, no one had any time to prepare for this, and the stories about how the terrorists in Gaza were able to breach the security fence. This fence hasn't been breached in 50 years. This was the wall that President Trump used to speak about as evidence that walls work, because they did. This wall worked. It worked for 50 years, and to have it breached, and then to have the terrorists come in en masse with sophisticated weapons and advanced vehicles and come in and walk around the southern Israel like they own the place, take over an army base for a few hours, kill soldiers while they were in their bed. I mean, it's as unprepared as you can get. This is, people have called it Pearl Harbor. They called it Israel's 9/11. I think Pearl Harbor is probably the more accurate description, because with 9/11, we were surprised, but it took a while to figure out, where this came from. Pearl Harbor, we had no doubt, who the enemy was and who we were fighting, and that's the case here. We knew exactly, who the terrorists were, what they were capable of doing, and yet they succeeded anyway in a surprise attack. So I can tell you that the country here is in shock. They typically have enormous confidence in their military and intelligence establishments. I think we continue to have that confidence, but this was really a blow to the state of Israel. I think everybody's in a state of shock. There will be anger. There will be a demand for answers. But fortunately, I do think Israel is up to the task of defeating its enemies.
Certainly. Mr. Ambassador, I want to put this into context, but at the same time, control team, can we have a look at those live images in the corner there? Because there seems to be a lot of movement happening. This is inside Israel. We saw earlier, just a moment ago as well, several ambulances driving up the street. I do believe this is still an active situation inside Israel as they try and continue to fight off these terrorists. But to put this into context, Mr. Ambassador, you mentioned that this is the biggest breach in 50 years. But so to explain that a little bit more for our audience, back in 1967, there was only 780 Israelis that were killed and 15 that had been captured over the Six-Day War. This is now day 2, and we've already seen 600 killed and more than 100, close to 200 captured. That just goes to show that this will most likely far exceed the Six-Day War. What does that tell you about where we are at geopolitically with Israel and their neighbours, and how this, and if this might blow up in the future?
Well, I think there's a painful lesson that's going to be learned from this. And the numbers you're quoting, as horrific as they are, remember in the Six-Day War, these were soldiers dying in combat. The 600 that were killed yesterday were almost entirely civilians. They were killed in their beds. And then there's another 100 or more, older women, Holocaust survivors, children, babies, women, young women, that have all been taken hostage to the Gaza Strip, where God only knows what horrors are in store for them. I mean, this is and so again, it's not about numbers only, but Israel's 30 times smaller than America. So at 600 lives lost, that's 18,000 people. If you extrapolate to America, that's bigger than any tragedy that America has gone through. So this cannot be overstated as a major failure and a major loss. And unfortunately, I think whatever Israel does with regard to the next couple of weeks, I mean, Hamas is going to declare victory. They've never killed this many Jews this quickly, this successfully. So look, Israel has a lot of work to do. They have to restore their deterrence. They have to restore their military capabilities. They have to send messages clearly across the Middle East to Iran and elsewhere that they're up to this task. And look, the one thing that I would say is, Israel needs to rethink, as maybe we do as well, what warfare really means. We've gotten all very sophisticated. We work in algorithms. We work, with physics PhDs. We shoot missiles out of the sky at 1,000 miles an hour. But they're still blocking and tackling, on the ground, and we can't lose sight.
Sometimes you got to remember the basics. We're going to have to leave it there, Mr. Ambassador. Your insight was extremely important to our viewers, and we appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
And you and your family stay safe.